Most of the county's owned properties are in Class A industrial parks, and generally speaking, our size requirement starts at about 15 to 20 acres, so this was relatively small. So the prospects then set out to find their own site from there, and they did that.
Okay, and the woman who spoke before mentioned it's essentially a cement plant or associated.
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Are there environmental rules that they have to follow to try to contain the dust that might otherwise be generated?
There are obviously DHEC rules that apply to every manufacturing facility. I don't know specifically what those rules are, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any county-established rules about dust and noise. Commercial noise is generally acceptable during normal business hours. But I don't know of any specific rules they have to follow in terms of noise and dust and so forth.
Is a concrete plant there already next to the railroad?
There's a
tracks?
concrete plant,
Are they
south-
related to each other at all?
I don't believe so, but that concrete plant that's just south of this site has been there for quite some time. Now, I don't have any specific knowledge about that facility, but it's easily observable from the county's GIS system.
Well, I get that's what was causing me a little confusion when I went out there today to look. I said, well,
Yes,
it's
sir.
already here.
Yeah.
And I was getting mixed up. Was this the same site just coming into compliance with some zoning, or a new site? But it's a new site.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else who
Thank you.
care to speak for the opposition?
Or the owner? Are you the owner? Owner or of anybody who'd like to speak?
Mr. Chairman and other committee members, my name is Rusty Shealy. I'm president and majority owner of Capital Concrete Company, which is based in Lexington, South Carolina. I've got some handouts I can share with all of you and for your colleagues, if that's okay, and then address some of your questions as well as some of the earlier comments that may be adverse to the request. While you're taking a second to peruse the material that I brought, Capital Concrete is a small, locally owned business based in Lexington, South Carolina, with 3 existing concrete plants around the perimeter in the Columbia-Lexington SMSA. As you all know, there's lots of construction activity, both residential and some commercial activity in this area, notably in Chapin, although that may be in the next county, but still it's radiating outward northwesterly. When we located, as Mr. Farmer indicated earlier, this piece of property, we like to take great pains to locate our plants to be good neighbors. We're aware of the industry reputation as dirty, nasty, not in my backyard concrete plant. One of your questions, Mr. Commissioner, was about stormwater and air quality. Both of those are regulated by federal legislation, notably the Federal Clean Air Act, which is administered by DHEC, and then the National Pollutant Discharge Emission System, known as NPDES, also administered by DHEC. We're bound to maintain minimal runoff of stormwater and processed water to trap all available processes to trap all that water and not let any leave our boundaries and or reuse as gray water or other purposes. Air quality standards come under, again, the Federal Clean Air Act. We have contemplated the most current, most efficient dust control equipment to monitor and prevent any fugitive emissions from either cement dust or fly ash dust, both of which are integral raw material components that go into the process to make concrete. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I would like to call your attention to is that when we found the site here, I've got a visual of our Lexington plant and our proposed plant here at this site. As you can see, the one that's labeled 1059 Bonham Richard Road in Lexington, it shows that we're less than 400 feet, about 397 feet from a large Mungo medium to upscale neighborhood with over 250 houses in it. Starting price points are in the low to upper $300,000 price range. We've left, as you can see, the buffer of trees and other vegetation and tried to be good neighbors in that regard and would contemplate doing the same thing in this instance if approved, as well as the other measures I mentioned earlier about stormwater and air quality. If you look at the plat that we've drawn out here from a conceptual standpoint, the nearest neighbor on the left, the orientation would be north, but on the far left as you're looking at the overhead, excuse me, the overhead is nearly 540 feet away. There's a fair amount of vegetation which we would leave, as well as extend some more vegetation in the opposite direction, so over 1,100 feet. And of course, the rail line, CSX rail line is on that'd be the westernmost boundary. Very similar to what we have in Lexington, where we've got a Norfolk Southern rail line that serves as one boundary to our Lexington plant. I can assure you the dB levels of a train passing and their warning whistle approaching grade crossings is significantly more than any noise that we would generate through backup horns or way ups from a concrete batch plant. So we want to be good neighbors. I'd love to meet and address the concerns that any adjoining neighbors have so that we can start off on the right foot if approved. And we want to be good corporate citizens. We want to create tax base. We want to create good paying jobs. And certainly we want to service the construction industry and the demand that it requires currently during this robust construction climate. A quick aside, and I would rather meet privately, I've got a 44-and-a-half-year-old severely handicapped special needs child, so I am very much in touch with what her concerns are and would very much welcome the opportunity to meet privately and address any of those, and within reason, make accommodations for buffers, for vegetation, or sight lines, or noise reduction.
Just out of curiosity, have you found over the years, since you've been doing this for a while, that you've had to change
obvious
your
of age groups here?
manufacturing procedures to comply with the federal requirements? Or, I mean, is that an ongoing thing that every time you go to build something, you need to change the manner in which you do your construction, or?
Sure, we try to learn something from every new plant that we build. I've been in a lot of years, most of my adult working career. My background's in finance, and yet, you know, it's like any other sector of the private economy. If you're not learning and looking as you go forward, then it's the old bicycle syndrome that you're not going to go forward if you don't learn new tricks every day.
Because
So-
50 years ago or so, there would have just been dust in the air and no filtering and so on, but.
Absolutely, and that's what's given, candidly, that's what's given the ready-mix concrete industry something of a black eye reputation. Not in my backyard, dirty, nasty concrete plant and dust everywhere and gray water runoff and all of that. Most of those have been addressed through federal or state legislation and DHEC's administration. But the air quality standards that we have to adhere to, less than 2% opacity in terms of fugitive dust escaping, with bag houses and collection systems on top of the silos, which would hold the powders, if you will. They're very consistent to talcum powder. But we install that, regularly have to have them inspected by DHEC and make sure the filtration is working properly. Same with stormwater. We try to recycle as much of our processed water through collecting it in a pit, letting it weir around, solids settle out by gravity, and then using gray water for a portion of the processed water in the concrete production sector.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Again, as you can see, we've tried to locate the plant in the middle of the property to gain as much buffering and boundaries between the next adjacent property and or any residents in the nearby vicinity. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be more than happy to. I'd love to meet and talk about anything that's pertinent to the project at hand.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
I feel like it would help with the
Can we
diagram.
be,
Yeah, got some questions from at home?
yeah, can we be heard at this point? I know earlier we couldn't be.
Yes.
Okay. I do have a couple questions. So I guess the first thing is, and this is, to the gentleman who just spoke. When you were talking about buffers, you used the word contemplate. That makes me nervous because that just means you'll think about it. Just want to put that out there. I guess the next question is, when you spoke about why you were picking this plot, you talked about Chapin. That's Lexington County. So my question is, why are you choosing to put it in Newberry and not Lexington? If Chapin's your goal, because that's what you stated. And then I can't tell on my map, because I've tried to Google it, how close is this to the Newberry County, Lexington County line? Because that makes me wonder. We talk about the jobs it'll bring, but if it's close to the line, those jobs aren't necessarily going to Newberry County residents.
I don't know the proximity to the county lines.
It's right on it.
It's
It's practically Chapin.
It's fairly
So
close.
if it's on the county line, then the jobs it brings to Newberry really is a moot point, because it is more likely that those people in Chapin will live closer to that plant than more people in Newberry. Just a thought when I think about everything.
Well, in candor, I've got two folks who work for Capital Concrete now who are Newberry County residents and work in Lexington County. So we would like to hire local. We are locally owned and locally operated and managed, and we would like to extend that with the good paying jobs that I talked to and Mr. Farmer addressed earlier. Does that address your question properly?
Well, it addresses that one. I guess my other question, which was kind of in the middle of the two, was because, again, you spoke of Chapin and the growth there being the reason. Did you look in places in Lexington County before choosing this site in Newberry? And I'm just curious.
Well, we did, but the reason we radiated further out is concrete is largely a service industry. It's transportation service of delivering a very perishable product, a very necessary building component in a vessel. Nobody ever comes to get concrete at our plant and then takes it to their job site. So the trick is to locate plants and plant sites where they will be efficient and stay ahead of the growth curve, which we think is going to continue to radiate up I-26 towards the upstate and kind of build it where they ain't mentality. Sure, Chapin's hot now, but that's going to radiate over very soon vis-a-vis Samsung and Komatsu and the other local trades and industries that are already here. But
Right. Well, and just so you know, I do know a little bit. My husband used to own a pump, so
Okay.
I know a smidgen of concrete. But you just hit on what would be my main concern. Like other people who've spoken, I moved to this county because I wanted to get out of Lexington County. And again, you're talking about the growth. And for me personally, is turning Newberry, Little Mountain, Prosperity into Chapin what's best for Newberry County?
I can't address the concerns about growth. That would be more
And
of a
again, it's just
political
my
issue
thought
in
process.
their
We just
community.
touched.
Okay.
You had another question you had was about buffering, I think, and I want to be sure I address that properly.
Okay. Yeah, I just was saying, when you brought it up, you used the word contemplate. And so,
I'm sorry, what was that
that
again?
made me, when you brought it up, you used the word to contemplate, you would contemplate it. And that word,
If I misspoke, I didn't intend to convey that. When we sat
Okay.
down and drew our conceptual civil layout, we contemplated those buffers by locating the plant in the middle of the acreage. I think it was 7.6 or some amount. But we intentionally
Okay.
put it in the middle to allow the excess beyond the plant utilization as a buffer up to the boundary line for adjoining neighbors. So that's what I was trying to convey. We wouldn't put it
is
up right
that
at the
part of what we
boundary.
can't see?
Yeah, Miss Stephanie.
That's one of the ones
Yeah,
we can't see.
We had a site plan, basically, that does show buffers on the site plan with the,
Perfect.
with the.
Okay.
Plant located pretty much center of the property with existing, this actually states existing wooded areas to remain within front, side, and rear buffers.
That's what I meant by
Okay.
buffer, that we would go to the middle to leave all around us extra space between any adjoining property.
And one of the three sides of this is the railroad track.
That's right.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, well, that was, I
Where it
just,
came-
like I said, we can't see that one,
Yeah.
so I wanted to double check.
Yeah, it was, however, I don't know where the camera is to point, but that's.
One,
it does
one
show.
side is the CSX line, the other side's Sam Coon Road, so
Correct.
on either opposite end are residential areas, and that's what we were trying to provide adequate distance between us and them, as well as assure them of our intent to be good neighbors from an air quality, stormwater, noise, and just be a good corporate citizen of the region.
Yes,
Could you, I'm sorry,
I sent copies of these two plans to them via their email, if they can see from Donna.
what, do we have any other questions from the commissioners, from Jen?
One
Yes.
concern,
Mr. Toronto?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, since I can't see the diagram, could you share the distance of the buffer in the residential areas that they were planning?
Included with the statutory setbacks, however, that's by statute, I can't address or change that.
It states on here 50-foot front side setback buffer next to Sam Coon Road, and then, rear next to the railroad track, 20-foot buffer is what it states on here. So it's 50-foot front and side setbacks, stated on the.
In addition to those, on the two sides, the plant is contemplated as being 539.65 feet on one side and a little over 1,100 and something feet, 1,173 feet on the opposite end side boundary.
But it does have a good bit of frontage on Sam Coon Road, the property does. It don't go off.
And as you can see, the shaded area, we've tried to leave all the vegetation, and we'll supplement that as required to meet zoning and other ordinances.
Yeah.
One
And
concern,
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, how does those anticipated buffers compare with the Lexington property? I'm sorry, I think you may have mentioned that, but.
The Lexington plant, which the setback requirements are similar, there's an existing Mungo Construction Homes neighborhood of about 250 units. To the closest point, I think I've got on the second visual that I made available, is less than 400 feet to the nearest home that's in Lexington.
Thank you.
I will add that we have not had any complaints about noise or stormwater or air quality from many of those neighbors. And we'll soon have been there, we're there 15 and a half years now, started in '06.
one concern that I have is in regard to road conditions. I'm pretty familiar with that area. Sam Coon Road is a secondary road that in many places is not in very good shape. And I can only imagine what kind of damage concrete trucks are going to continue to do to that. In addition, it's very close to Highway 76. And if you're familiar with where Sam Coon Road comes out on Highway 76, if you're coming to the stop sign there and you're looking to make a left-hand turn to go back towards Chapin, it's a pretty blind spot there. And concrete trucks don't exactly move too fast. My only concern there would be a concrete truck pulling out, somebody topping that hill at 55, 60 miles an hour and not seeing it in time. To me, it's a recipe for disaster.
Again, we work with DMV and DOT at all times to make sure our sight lines and distances are adequate. And we don't want to be in a bad situation either, so we want to make sure we've got adequate sight lines to get up to traffic speed prior to entering into live lanes.
If the concrete plant were there, would you be able to contact the DMV to see if the speed limit would be lowered in that region that you're speaking about?
In some of our other plants, they've done traffic studies to determine the volume of traffic as well as the speed of that existing traffic in terms of what it should or could be post-construction. And we've worked with them in that regard.
Okay.
If this is passed, what is your projected starting date? If it's passed?
If passed, I mean, we've still got several hurdles from both a permitting standpoint, air quality, stormwater are required licenses that we have to have before we could even start a concrete plant. But my guess would be 3 to 6 months once approved.
Well, any other question we have for the?
I have one more. I'm so sorry.
What? Yeah.
It's a quick one. On average, how many trucks come in and out of that Lexington plant a day?
Each truck has approximately 3 to 3 1/4 trips per day per truck. We contemplate 8 to 10 trucks at this plant, so approximately 25 plus round trip laps daily for mixer trucks.
And then the raw materials will be coming too. The
Raw materials would be coming in as well.
That's an 8-hour day, 10-hour day?
Typically 10 hour plus. The concrete industry is kind of cant to cant.
Okay,
It's
so it's spread out.
right at dark in
10,
the
12
morning, dark
hours.
at night, but typically it is a long day, especially during the summer, daylight saving time hours.
That's like about 2 trucks an hour.
Yeah.
All right, well, if, can we, like to
Just
speak
make a
again?
quick comment on the roads.
Yes, ma'am.
I have been in touch with South Carolina DOT on many occasions with the potholes that we have in our roads on Sam Coon. We have other commercial contractors that speed down the road. We have, I believe the speed limit's 45, they go 65, and they fly over the potholes, making them worse. They're constantly being filled. And we are not on SCDOT's list for having our road resurfaced. So that's something, that's also concerning many of my neighbors that weren't able to make it here today. We've got 15 employees compared to how many people live on that road, their quality of life.
Okay.
I don't want to listen to a concrete plant and concrete cars coming in and out of the road, trucks, for 10 hours a day, that's not what I moved there to listen to.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other people like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. We had a hard time
Can I address
picking.
one comment to respond?
Yes, sir.
In terms of speed, all of our trucks are equipped with in-cab cameras, which record speed at all times. They feed it to our safety director. And any speeding in excess of 2 miles an hour over the speed limit results in what we call a harsh event. The driver's counseled and/or progressive discipline up to and including termination if necessary.
Thank
But
you.
also devalue our homes.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Chuck McAllister, and our organization owns the 103 acres that is just west, actually, of the original 87 acres that this particular piece of property is being cut from. Our organization is called Home Place. And when we bought this particular piece of property 2 years ago, we were entirely an R2 area. And that was what appealed to us. We were coming home. We had for 16 years the #1 hunting show in America called Adventure Bound Outdoors. And we began to attract combat veterans to go hunting with us. And so without even realizing it, we developed something called therapeutic hunting. And so that's what we do with our veterans. We take them hunting, and we take them through a process whereby we trigger their PTSD, and then we replace their combat memories with pleasant memories of the outdoors. That's what we've dedicated this 103 acres to. We also have a program where veterans have the highest divorce rate in America. So we have a marriage support group that we work with them to ensure that we can help heal their marriages. They also have the highest suicide rate in America, 22 a day. And we try to find ways to gainfully employ them and to give them an opportunity of realizing that they're appreciated. Our military does a tremendous job of preparing our men for combat and a lousy job of bringing them home. And I can say that as a veteran myself. This past year, we put in a fruit orchard where we give the volunteers a time to come and work in the fruit orchard. We grew a 5-acre garden with our volunteers as well. We adopted a project and we developed produce to the project with volunteers going in and showing those residents in the project how to prepare, clean, and cook the produce, and we're able to get many of them reduced in the government assistance that they needed. Our plans call for our expansion of this particular ministry and the work that we do. We are a Christian-based ministry. We also have converted a barn into dog kennels. It costs a veteran on average $27,000 to get a PTSD service dog. We raise them and give it to them for free. We currently own the property under the name Promise of Hope. We had to this past year change our name to Home Place because on 3 occasions we were cyber attacked by radical Muslims, and they attached a hardcore pornography site to our site. Now, I say all that to you to just share with you what our heart is, our commitment to being in Newberry County. We're currently raising funds for the building of a lodge that will go on this particular piece of property where veterans can come and stay free of charge. Our great concern, and we would like to encourage this Planning Commission to deny this request for rezoning, is not all of the buffers and everything else that will be established, but when you're dealing with men who have been in combat situations, and when they begin to hear bunches of heavy equipment or a slapping tailgate on a dump truck, then you have no idea the trauma that can set about in their lives. We have men right now that are dealing with, I got a call from one of our wives just the other day, and her husband was lying in the floor weeping because he had been watching the news of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and he felt like that all his buddies had died in vain. And so I had her hold the phone up to his ear, and I told him over the phone, I said, listen, son, your friends did not die for a political party. They did not die for a president. They died for the Constitution of the United States of America, which affords us the opportunity to have those freedoms. We have a wonderful, wonderful group of people that we're now attracting to Newberry County, retired and other veterans who are looking for a place to settle. We will do much, much, much more than provide 15 jobs to this county. We will do much, much, much more than provide just one site where there will be concrete equipment that will be running all the time. Our plan is to expand and to expand dramatically. I don't think you can build a buffer zone big enough that would quieten the noise that our men would have to deal with. I've had a personal conversation with the owner of this particular piece of property. She's not even here tonight. She's completely ambivalent as to whether or not this zoning is actually accomplished, and our organization is prepared to offer to buy the property in order to be able to expand what we need to do. And for the future, I think the expansion of this is going to be much more beneficial for Newberry County if we go the route that we are proposing that we go with it instead of putting a concrete plant at that location. Our intention is to be there. We're Newberry County residents. We're not Lexington County residents. I grew up, my father was the CEO of Newberry Federal Savings and Loan. I love Newberry County. This is a very, very dear place to us. And it's one reason that we chose to locate here after we started our hunting show, Adventure Band Outdoors, which happened to be headquartered out in Arkansas. And so, at any rate, I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you would like about our organization and go from there.
You said your property is west of this?
It's 739-9. It's the property just above.
Okay, so it's up here and they're over here, right?
Yes, we join at a corner right there.
Yeah, you've got a corner.
Yes, and that 739-76 is the one that was a part of the property that they're carving out, the 6.55 acres between the railroad track and Sam Coon Road.
Where you have buildings on this property, 739-9?
Toward the front of the property, you'll see there's a little square there that comes down. We have 3 barns that are right there. One barn we have, they were already in existence when we bought it. One barn we have transition into dog kennels. And, guys, it costs our veterans $27,000 to get a
Okay.
PTSD service dog, and we give it to them for free.
So basically, this is your building over here.
I'll
on
have
the
to look
far
at it. Can
west-
I come up, can I approach to look at it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can show you.
Your building is at the far west end of that property, right? By the
Yes, sir.
lake?
That's it. That's our lake, and that's where we do our fishing tournaments for our veterans.
And that's about,
Their children.
according to the scale on this map, that would be about 2,400 feet, half a mile from where the cement plant's going to be built. Since it's in the center of their property, that's about 2,500 feet.
But you have
This
to
on the map is
understand,
1,040 feet. It's over 2,000 feet.
but also you got to understand the movement of animals and everything else that we're going to try. We've applied to be we're in the southern region of the mountain grouse. We've applied to provide our veterans with upland game bird hunting by having mountain grouse in the area. We also, of course, are deer and turkey hunting. We would like to expand our property and eventually go with something that is high fence, which means we would like to actually, and our organization is prepared to purchase that 739-76.
What's,
We have a donor that will step in and provide that.
what's the acreage of your property right now, sir?
Right now, the acreage of our property is 103 acres because we also have a 3-acre corner
Yeah.
that is property that is designated right next to 739, and then there's another 3-acre strip that we purchased that goes from 739-9 down to Bear Creek Road.
How big is your staff?
How big is our staff? My son is our CEO and farm manager. Now, in terms of paid staff, we have 2. In terms of volunteer staff, we have over 50.
We, have any questions? Or anybody else would like to speak?
I would just like to say one other thing. When we purchased this property, we purchased it because it was in Newberry County. And I can remember specifically talking to Annie Peters, and she said, we're going to stay rural. And I said, I want us to stay rural, specifically where we're going to be and specifically what we're going to be doing. You haven't lived until you've got a guy go through PTSD and you've had to hold him in your arms while he's crying just because a loud noise went off near you. And so I would encourage this planning commission to please, please, please let us take care of our veterans, and please, please, please deny this rezoning.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or any, body would like to speak? And questions from virtual?
Well, so we can get a vote one
Yeah.
way or the other. I move we approve this and see what happens.
We have a motion to approve the rezoning. Do we have a second? Not receiving a second, that motion dies. Do we entertain a motion in the other direction?
Most that we deny the request.
All right, we have a motion to deny the request for rezoning. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a couple seconds. All in favor of denying this request, please signify by saying aye.
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 We got 3 virtual, all 3 virtual. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed? 1, 5, 1, with me not needing a vote as chairman. So that motion to be rezoned is denied.
Mr. Chairman, can you please remind everyone about, that this is only a
Yes,
recommendation?
now this, the planning commission, ours is only just a recommendation, is be ultimate, up to county council to approve or deny it, so both parties, whether opposed or in favor, needs to follow this thing through, with county council and attend those meetings as well. Based on that, whoever was here for that, they're welcome to leave. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, because we got other items after we get to these cases. They got to teach us some things tonight. So, thanks everybody for coming on that case.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody's attention and consideration. Thank you. All right, our next case tonight is MA 020215-22, a rezoning request for 3 real estate parcels totaling 13.91 acres at 1420 Mount Tabor Road, Little Mountain, South Carolina, to be rezoned from RS to single-family residential to R2 rural, tax map 639-8, 639-87, and 639-88. And, but like I said, we're recommending, and county council will, if they don't like our result, they can change it. But this is one of them I like them to, their input on anyway.
Just a comment on the green map that we have. They have mislabeled 639-88 as 3 acres. It's 2 acres.
We have addressed that with GIS.
I was crossing all the other ones out and writing 3, and then I realized I'm making the mistake backwards. That
Yes,
was
sir.
the only error.
The owners of the 3 parcels have asked to be rezoned to R2 rural. There is currently a new site-built house there, but they are also wanting to put a new custom-built manufactured home on the 2-acre lot. This area is populated with a lot of manufactured homes existing. So that is the intent, is to put a manufactured home on the property.
And this is basically to allow their parents to move there, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
To what now?
All right. It's just to allow the parents to move there in the area with them, beside them, is what I'm understanding. Would y'all like to speak on it?
I know y'all are busy people, but I would just like to say, thank you for your time and your consideration. Yeah, we just want to move by our daughter and son and our grandkids.
Now, do we need her to say that? Okay.
Son-in-law, and
I
there's,
just wanted to make sure that was all right.
and my wife, and thank you
Well,
for your time and consideration. I appreciate it.
Actually borders them on 3 sides.
Okay, well.
So their land totally surrounds that 2-acre lot that's misdone with 3.
Okay, that one.
Yeah. So-
Interesting.
Proud
And it's
y'all.
bordered by Mount Tabor Road and 76.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all again for
All
your
right, thank you.
consideration.
Any
Any questions?
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Entertain a motion?
I move we
Motion
approve
to,
the
any
request.
questions? We got a motion to approve this request? Have a second?
Second.
Got a couple seconds. We have a first and a motion and a second on rezoning. All in favor of the rezoning request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Again, y'all welcome to stay or y'all welcome to leave if y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next case tonight is MA 03-02-15-22, a rezoning request for 1 real estate parcel totaling 1.49 acres at 119 Pender Ridge Road, Newberry, South Carolina, to be rezoned from RS Single Family Residential to R2, tax map number 340-2-21.
The owner of 119 Pender Ridge Road, which is the, used to be Hazel Plumbing location, has asked to rezone to R2 rural. The intentions are to, if rezoning passes, to put mini warehouse storage there. Mini warehouses is a conditional use in the R2 zoning district, meaning there are certain guidelines and requirements that will have to be met in order for us to issue permits for the mini warehouses. Some of those are gonna need some variances, so if you all and county council passes this rezoning, they will be going before the BZA to get some variances for some setbacks to allow permitting process to start.
Did you say many warehouses?
Mini warehouses, yes, sir.
Did you say how many?
130? Approximately 130.
130?
Okay, would the owner like to speak?
I'm Janeska Hazel. I own the property. This was a business. Why it was residential zoned, I have no clue. And to turn it into mini warehouse storage, this would be business for me that I can run, making use of the property that I already have and the business that I already have. I have spoken with my neighbors and have good relations there, and they seem to be fine with it. Carol is here tonight on my behalf, which is a neighbor. If y'all have any questions, I do plan on having it fenced, security, lighting, to be very safe and secure, and little in the neighborhood as far as, comings and goings with having timed entry to the property so that it wouldn't be all night long.
All right. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
For me?
Any questions of virtual audience? Okay, anybody, okay, go ahead.
Once that is essentially a business established there, you will, I assume you will have to be paying some taxes to the county?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
so, just so we know there's some benefit to it.
Yes, there-
that
I
will
mean-
change. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody like to speak either way on the subject? Only thing I guess I would like to say is that the property across the road several months ago, we denied the rezoning request, but it was going to general commercial. And one of the issues that was everybody notified of it, because we had people show up that they didn't notify. This rezoning request is for R2, which is different, not 10 acres of but we denied that then, based on a lot of comment we had received from the neighbors. And I just want to make sure, did the neighbors, since we had the same issue across the road, did the neighbors get notified of that? Okay, I just didn't want to make sure that, because we had a good many people show up for the last one, and I want to make sure everybody aware of that. That's all.
Mike, this is Carol Crumple. I
And
know I can't
Miss
speak
Carol,
for
would you
you.
please come up here? Not gonna make you wanna walk, but we can't
I'm
record.
sorry.
We can't record.
Janeska and I have been neighbors for a long, long time, and this has been Hazel Plumbing location for many, many, many years.
Yes.
It's been a business there forever. So it's no real change for me, except that, this is gonna be in her front yard. So she's gonna be looking at it every day. It's gonna be in my side yard. I'm gonna be looking at it every day. So both of us are gonna work together to make it as appeasing as possible to the neighborhood. And she's gonna make it regulated where it's not gonna be open at night. There'll be certain hours of operation where they come and go and things like that. So this is totally different than general commercial.
That's right.
And the fact that it's been there for, I don't know, I've lived there for 36 years, and it's been there for as long as I can remember, as a business anyway. I
I've
have
been
no
going by there
objections.
longer than that, so yes.
Yeah, I've got no objections to it.
Okay, well, I really wanna make sure that, I wanna make sure we had a distinction between what we had a few weeks ago, a few months ago versus this one.
Well, actually, I'm
I
on
think it is.
all
You wrap
sides of
around on
Janeska
this
here.
one, yeah.
So, I'm the really only contiguous property owner.
That's
So,
right, yeah.
I don't have any objections to it. And she and I are gonna work together.
Okay, that's good.
I just have one question. We're looking at 119, correct, the address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, So is it 1 acre or is it somewhere else that says 1.49?
It's 1.49.
1.49.
Okay. Okay, and I guess my biggest question, I guess, would be, are you planning, I know you said you talked about putting up a fence.
Uh-huh.
How much do you plan on fencing in? I mean,
The
are you
entire,
gonna fence?
the entire property.
So the whole,
The
you're
whole.
gonna use it, okay, so the fence will go on the entire property line for the 1.49?
Yes, the total, all of the storage buildings will be fenced in. The only thing that won't be completely fenced in will be the entrance to the front office.
Right, okay, I was just curious.
Okay.
And some clarification for the 1 acre versus the 1.49. Janeska actually has a new survey where she surveyed some additional property from her property that her house is on. So that's where the additional acreage come from. GIS has not had a chance to update the map since that new plat was recorded.
Okay, well, thank y'all. And entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got multiple seconds. All in favor of the rezoning request, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous again. Anybody? No? All right, unanimous, rezoning request is approved.
Thank you very
Again,
much.
you have to follow it through council.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know. All right, okay, we made it through that. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the revised preliminary plat for the Stewart Landing subdivision pursuant to subdivision regulations. We've seen this in bits and pieces before. I'll let Miss Katie explain to us.
So Stewart Landing has already received your blessing for their preliminary plat. They came back to us and asked if they could make some modifications to their preliminary plat. The modifications that they're asking is on the cluster groups, this is just a picture of one of them. This is what we consider a cluster. They are asking for the lots on the exterior only, not the 3 in the middle, but just the 2 on the outside, to have a 0 lot line to the exterior. They have some developers who have house plans that will not fit within the building envelope that was on their original preliminary plat. Our zoning code does allow for a 0 lot line as long as certain conditions are met. He can meet all of those conditions. One extra thing that he is putting in there, and I put it on a highlight to the side, on all of the lots to the exterior where he is changing it to a 0 lot line, he is adding a 5-foot easement to the entire lot so that he can protect that 5 foot so that we have that fire barrier there if any additional development was made, which would have to come before you all as well.
So that's like a 5-foot aisle between?
Yes, all it can be is green space. Nothing can go in that 5-foot easement buffer.
Okay. To get to, so people in the middle can get to the open space in the back, or?
Well, it's just so that it's protected so in the current building envelope, they have 5-foot setbacks to protect both sides of the house. This one would have one side that has a 0 setback, so the house would be exactly
and
on
5
the
feet
property
on the
line.
other
So
side.
he's adding a 5-foot easement, so nothing can be within that 5-foot
Yeah,
vicinity.
that gives them a little more room.
Yes.
Got it.
Got a bigger house.
Okay, sorry, you probably said that, but my hearing is so bad.
Well, it kind of.
I have to hear it twice.
And again,
Understand.
he's meeting all the conditions, but since you all have approved the preliminary plat, this is a revision, so it has to have your blessing before we can give him the blessing to go forward with it.
Okay.
All right. I entertain a motion to approve the revised plat.
Approve.
We got a motion, got a second. Got a second. All in favor of approving the revised preliminary plat for Stewart Landing subdivision, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous again. All opposed? No. All right, that was good. We had a lot of business tonight, but Miss Katie, would you introduce our new county administrator and let us welcome him into the community and then move forward with our comprehensive plan?
Yes, we are excited to have Christopher Iglesias here with us, and I believe you're gonna do a little introduction first, yes?
Yeah, we gotta get your whole family lineage, the whole bit, you know, from into the county, where he came from. Give us a little update of you.
Good evening,
Sir.
commissioners,
We're
and
social distancing.
hello out in cyberspace out there. I hope y'all can hear me okay. My name's Christopher Iglesias. I've been on the job for about 5 weeks now. Hopefully, you'll be happy to know that my career got started in planning and zoning. Spent a lot, actually, my whole career has been centered around it, both in the private sector and in the public sector. So I added to my planning experience by going to law school in Charleston, and wanted to move out of practicing law. Was pretty burnt out. It was a pretty tough profession, and wanted to move towards administration, and been making that move progressively over the last few years. So my wife and I are super excited to be in Newberry. It's a community we've always been attracted to, and now we're here, and we're just excited about all the work that's ahead of us.
We're glad to have you here. And, you know,
Thank you, sir.
I'm a 63-year-old lifelong resident and about 3 generations before that here, so, yeah, I'm welcoming you to the community.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to working with you.
Same here. Thank you.
We're gonna have Miss Cheryl with Matheny and Burns. They have, been awarded the contract to do our 10-year comp plan. We have actually kind of gotten started, but we wanted to have a kickoff meeting with you all because y'all will be a very important, factor in our comp plan, going forward. And Mr.
Okay,
If
yeah,
you
I-
need to be excused.
Okay, I have a meeting in Prosperity at 7, so
That's
I
okay.
will read through this
If you read
that,
through it, you
will
should
help
be
me
well
see
caught
what's
up.
happening.
We're not gonna take very long.
Didn't
I
want to
don't wanna
walk
take
out
much
on you
time.
when you were speaking.
No, thank you. That would be distracting.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. The comprehensive plan process, we're just going to go over just a few things on that. I'm not going to take up a whole lot of your time because you're going to be sick of the comprehensive plan by the time we finish. It's going to be a year-long project, and I'll explain a lot more about it by the end of the presentation. The 3 things that we want to do today is we want to discuss the purpose, and we want to explain the process a little bit, and most importantly, we want to explain what your role is going to be in the comprehensive plan process. I know a couple of y'all, 2 or 3 y'all were here 10 years ago, and have seen me since in various roles. We've been around a long time with the county. We've enjoyed a good working relationship. The present plan was done by us 10 years ago. It's, I think, a pretty good document. It's very thick, and we're hoping to get a little less thick this time. We have a little bit different approach because we have different administration. We're very excited. Mr. Iglesias has a planning background, and he appreciates planning and understands the worth of going through this process. So we are going to be heavily involved in, and we're hoping you guys are going to be very involved as well. I don't think you were involved as much as we would have preferred last time, but we are going to ask you to be very involved this time. So let me get started real quick here. So just a few quick things. Okay. Comprehensive plans, what are they? They define, and you guys have the packet with you, so you can look along if we have any problems with the technology, but it defines community goals, objectives, and policies to guide public and private development. In other words, what do we want to become, and how do we get there? Whether we want to or not, almost all communities grow, and you guys are starting to grow a little bit now. When we first started working with the county, you didn't even have very many subdivisions. Now you're having companies want to do more subdivisions. This is a change, and we need to address that. It examines community strengths and weaknesses. In other words, what do we need to improve? What can we build on? And it also assesses conditions and analyzes trends. So where are we headed if we continue as we are? And why do we have to do a comprehensive plan? Well, at the very core, it's a compliance document. It's required by state law, and you can see the act is cited above. If you want to do land use regulation in South Carolina, and that includes zoning and subdivision regulations, you have to do a comprehensive plan. And of course, the Planning Commission, by law, is heavily involved in that. And they establish and maintain the planning process. And by law, the plan has to be reviewed every 5 years and updated every 10. The 5-year review was done, and the law is very, very loose about how that must be done. That was done, and we'll use that in the 10-year update. 10-year update is a major update to your comprehensive plan. So this is just a cover of your current plan. It was adopted in December of 2012, so it's it's time to update, as we know. So what are the benefits? Aside from being required, well, it defines common goals, prioritizes needs, and promotes efficient use of limited resources. It creates a vision of what you want the community to be, and shared vision of how you want that to happen. It identifies issues and opportunities facing the community, and it provides a policy reference for decision makers, and that would be you. And of course, it is a compliance document, but comprehensive plans are also very useful tools for lots of different areas of the county. So where does comprehensive plan fit into local government planning? Well, it's long range and comprehensive in scope. It's a general guide for future social, economic, and physical development. It's area-wide, but it's not site-specific in scope. In other words, you're looking at the big picture. And it is important to note, and everybody should remember this, that it is not regulatory. This does not translate directly to zoning. So you need to try to think of this as a blueprint of how the community wants to grow rather than the specific zoning map, because they're two different things. And they may look very different, as you'll see what your current plan looks like. Let's see. Okay, so the plan elements are in green there. There are 10, I believe, now. We just added a new one. And they deal with all kinds of different aspects, and we'll go over them individually in just a second. But things like population and housing, transportation, but also land use, which is a little bit more specific. And we deal with all of these in terms of how does this affect land use in Newberry County, the use of land. So the process includes several parts. One is an inventory of data and information. One's a setting of needs and goals, and the next is implementation. And the things that implement comprehensive plans, of course, comprehensive plans blueprint. Implementation is done by the zoning ordinance and the zoning map, land development, which is the same thing as subdivision regulations, capital improvements, and then policies and procedures that the county may have or adopt. So what are the steps in the planning process? So you identify stakeholders, which by that we mean groups or organizations that should be involved, want to be involved, or impacted by the different elements. You identify local problems and needs and collect information and facts. You develop informed goals and objectives. You develop alternative plans and programs to achieve those goals and objectives. And you select and implement those plans and objectives. Once you've done all this, you set up a way to evaluate the results on a regular basis. I think that's something that most communities have not done very well, but we're going to set you up so that you can do that, and you'll see it on a regular basis. You get to check them off as you finish each strategy. And then you revise as needed. This is also not something that's done a lot, but it's definitely possible. If you find that something just isn't working or things have changed, you can always go back and revise. So what is your role in the plan today? We're going to ask you to work with staff and consultants to develop and review plan elements, and we're hoping that you will serve, well, we're going to ask you to to serve as the plan steering committee. Some communities are big enough that they have an entirely different committee, but that sometimes bogs down the process just a little bit. And because we want you guys to be involved, we think that you're the perfect group to be the steering committee for this. And that just means that you will hear the recommendations, and you would do this anyway as planning commission, but you'll hear recommendations from those stakeholder groups, and you'll decide what you think should be in and what you think should be changed, if you have any opinions on that. Represent the community through participation in those stakeholder meetings and the public workshops, if we decide to do that, if the county decides to do that. Usually, governments, planning commissions will divide it up. One commissioner may take two different stakeholder groups and say, I'll attend these meetings. There's only going to be one meeting probably per stakeholder group, so it won't be a tremendous burden, I don't think, time-wise. And you may be interested in a subject matter and want to come to another group, and that's perfectly fine as well. The more the merrier, and the better it is for us on the other side to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. And you can help be an advocate for what the stakeholder group also comes up with as well. We want to get direction in refining implementation strategies to achieve the goals. And then, probably most important, you'll recommend the elements and then the entire plan to the county council. So you don't adopt it as usual, but this is your plan. So you will be recommending it to council. Any questions on that one? It's a big one. So what's required? There's 10 elements: population, housing, economic, cultural resources, natural resources, community facilities, we got that one twice, transportation, priority investment, and land use. And there's also a new element called resiliency, and that deals with, it's a little bit redundant, and these are all mandated. So I understand that we don't pick what we do on these. But resiliency is basically taking the hazard mitigation plan the county already has and rethinking it in terms of land use and planning. So, and you can also add other elements. Some communities that have a big university may add a town and gown element. Implementation is one that we will be adding, and that will be a compilation of all the strategies in the plan so that you'll see them in chronological order and you can check them off as they go. So each element has to have an inventory of existing conditions, statement of needs and goals, and implementation strategies with timeframes. I want to show you a few examples of those. Whoops. So at the top of that page, you have, well, the whole page really. These are existing conditions. This is just an example, and the new plan will be a little spiffier looking than this, but basically you'll have data and you'll have some charts and graphs that will try to explain the data a little better. And you'll also have maps, and this is your current future land use map. I know that sounds odd, current future land use map, but it's general, as you can see. It's not site specific, so you can't go in and say this property is zone this, so it's in this area. But it gives a general idea of how, at that time, council, planning commission, and staff thought that the county should grow, basically. And then the goals, objectives, and strategies portion is a little more detailed, and this time around it'll probably be a little more pared down, but this is basically the kind of format it will have. It'll have what the goal is, what the objective is, and then some strategies to achieve those objectives. For each strategy, it'll have who's supposed to do it, and then it'll have a time frame for completion. And that can be as specific as we want to make it, or as general, and that's all depending on the stakeholder groups, planning commission, and staff. We met with staff a couple weeks ago, and there are some specific goals that they indicated they wanted to be sure was going to happen with this comprehensive plan. They want it to be simple and easy to understand for everyone, includes you guys and public. They want the goals, objectives, and implementation strategies to be specific and achievable with built-in progress monitoring and evaluation. So that'll be through the implementation plan that will occur. Want to incorporate visual aids to enhance reader understanding and enforce key points. That'll make it much more understandable as well, and to be straightforward and clear. So we're going to try to cut out the fluff and make it as user-friendly as we possibly can. So we're going to have a new format. It's going to look a little spiffier, as I just said. It's going to have a nice header and footer, and the graphics are going to be a little bit nicer, and we're going to incorporate some photos, relevant photos, not anything that's not necessary. And the main portion of this one that we've talked about with staff is role of public participation, and that's key and required in the legislation. We will include both of the things that are required. First one says, in preparation or updated plan elements, Plan Commission may use advisory committees. We will be incorporating the stakeholder committees, which would be that. And before the adoption of an element or plan, the council will hold a public hearing. That is required, and I believe council holds public hearings, correct? Yes, so you guys will not be doing that part. Staff has also requested that we propose a public workshop process that would be including about 5 public workshops throughout the county, different areas. Then we'll ask the public to come and comment on the plan, and they will get a chance to talk to staff or consultants about the plan and how that might affect them individually. We found that really works well. Everybody likes to hear how it's going to impact them, and what the plan is. So we will do that 5 different nights. We haven't scheduled those yet, so we don't know when that'll happen, but that will be happening, and we think it'll happen either after the draft has been through the steering committee, and we can either do it before you guys are ready to recommend to council, or we can do it after that. We'll determine that once we get to that point, but we have some play on that. So the element, just to give you a quick overview of what the stakeholder committees are going to be. They're going to be 5 to 7 committees. They'll be grouped by similar subject matter so that we don't have quite as many committees. Last time we had one for every element, and there was too much overlap, and we wore out the people that were going to be there. So this time we're going to group. Right now we think we're going to group population and housing. Economic will have its own committee because it's a little bit different. Cultural, we may group with another, but right now we have it separate because it's a little bit different as well. Community facilities and transportation have a lot of common themes, so we'll probably group them. Natural resources and resiliency has a lot of common themes, so we'll definitely group those 2. And then priority investment and land use also have a lot of common subject matter, and the stakeholders are very similar. So those are the groupings as we have them right now. Each committee will have representatives from related public and private organizations, as well as interested citizens. We will invite anybody that wants to come, certainly can come. Better to have them early than late. If they want to come and talk and express concern, or to just participate and tell us what they think. We want to keep it kind of small because it's unwieldy when you get too many folks, but we will probably invite 10 to 12 different organizations for each committee, depending on what kind of committee it is and how wide the subject matter. As we talked about a second ago, planning commissioners will be encouraged to participate in 1 or more of the element committees. Each committee will meet to receive an element overview. They'll get the background data beforehand so they can review it. And a lot of times, they'll even tell us what's wrong. They'll see errors and different information and let us know. So that's helpful. That'll be provided before the meeting, and then we'll meet and discuss the issues. We'll start working on goals, objectives, and strategies, but that almost never gets too far because everybody gets worn out by the background data. But and then we'll follow up by email, generally, to get review. They'll make sure that they're okay with the edits that are made and want to give us any input on the goals, objectives, and strategies as well. And that's basically what that's saying. And then once committees have completed review, then those element drafts will go to the Planning Commission for review and revision. And we're hoping that the planning commissioners that participating in those stakeholder meetings will help us by participating in the discussion of each of those elements. The Planning Commission will review and recommend completed drafts, probably one by one, but then you will submit the entire consolidated draft to the County Council for adoption. We've found in the past, and we can change that if we decide to, if staff would rather do it a different way, but generally, County Council isn't able to deal with one at a time. That's a little bit more work than they can handle on top of everything else they do. So we generally have the completed draft to them for adoption. So the timetable for this process will take approximately 1 year. That started at the first of the year, basically, so we're well into the process already. All the elements will be in progress throughout the year. Draft background data completed for several elements by the end of this fiscal year. We're already working on population. Housing, economic, and culture are also, to some degree, already started as well. Staff will update the commission on the progress. We'll keep Katie updated. She'll let you know where we are on everything. And stakeholder meetings will be scheduled to maximize member participation. In other words, is it better for the folks that we're inviting to be there during the day or at night? And sometimes it works better one way, sometimes the other. Community facilities, because it will include mostly county officials, will probably be a daytime meeting. But at the same time, it's got transportation included in it, so that may be an issue. We'll have to decide on that one. So if you have any questions now or about the process as we go through, that's the contact information for Katie. You probably already have that. You have my contact information. Katie will be our point of contact on all things. So especially when we start going through elements, it'd be better to go through Katie so Katie can funnel it back to us. We don't want to have everybody coming to us and not know which person to listen to at any particular time. So staff will be funneling that information to us. You guys have any questions? It sounds like a lot of work, but you will not, I can promise you, you will not feel like it's a lot of work.
You'll be doing most of it. We'll be lessening it aside.
We'll be doing most of it, but Katie will be getting a lot of emails, probably more than she wants. And I'm sure Mr. Glacy will probably be getting a lot of emails too. So it will be a group process. It always is, and it's a good process. At the end of it, I think you'll feel like you know the county a whole lot better than you, even if you've lived here all your life. There are things we've had.
Exactly right.
Yeah, we've had people. Yeah, that say I had no idea this was happening. So now one thing I will say that we did not anticipate was that the 2020 census data is not out. And it will not be out totally. So we will have to use a thing called American Community Survey, which is the census product that you would normally use in between this decennial 10-year census. So we will use the 2020 data as it's available, but we will mostly be using American Community Survey data. But it should work out fine. Any questions? All right, we look forward to working with you.
Good that you pretty much, you know the county better than we do probably. And
We do know the county, but not as well as you do.
You know the roads, but you know all the facts. But you've done this before, basically, so this is it's gonna be beneficial to have you on board with
We-
your previous knowledge
Right.
of the whole process and the county personnel, so.
Well, I've been working on population development. I've been surprised to see that there's been changes that we didn't anticipate. Now, does that mean that the data's not good? I cannot speak to that. That would have to be going to the Census Department Bureau, but, there have been changes. I was surprised, very surprised. So, nothing major, nothing earth-shattering, just minor, age changes right now is what I'm working on. That's been interesting, so.
But I think people have finally found Newberry County.
They have.
Fortunate or unfortunate, it's whatever, because, I mean,
Right,
like I said, I've been here forever, and you can be in Charleston in 2 hours and 30 minutes.
yes.
And then you can be sitting on the Blue Ridge Parkway at the Pisgah Inn in 2 hours and 15 minutes, so.
And you can go
I'm a
to,
mountain person, my wife is more of a beach person. We actually have dropped the bags off at home, changed underwear, and took
Yeah,
off to the
exactly.
mountain same day. And Newberry sits right here in the middle that, you can,
Right.
it's got a lot of opportunities. Halfway
Absolutely.
between, or roughly, between Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia, it's right.
well, you're right on the
We
interstate.
got 2 lakes that we're touching.
Yes.
5 or 6 rivers that I don't think we probably take advantage of our natural resources as much
Exactly.
with have so much U.S. Forest Service land that provides hunting and recreational opportunities and rivers. I think the ecotourism probably is something we may not do as much with paddling the rivers. They're beautiful.
There are a lot of opportunities. I think this is actually a really good time to be doing a comprehensive plan, especially with staff. Staff has always been supportive here. We enjoy working with Newberry County, but we're excited to work with the new administrator who has a planning background, has a lot of good new ideas. Katie, we worked with a little bit at the city, but she also has a different perspective, and it's really nice it's nice to see it in a different way. So we think there's a good opportunity to look at things a little bit differently and maybe look at opportunities, not necessarily how to grow, but how to deal with growth, and direct it in the ways that the community wants to direct it. So,
There's a lot of people moving in here sight unseen.
right?
Zillow, whatever it is, they pick out a house and bam, they never have. We know several opportunities. They never came down here, they brought their bags.
Well, we have to remember that Newberry County is right on the edge of a major metropolitan area.
That's
So, and in between 2 really major metropolitan areas. So, it's gonna be a busy time, probably development-wise, and good time to step back and look at it, decide how you want things to go, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll be talking with you soon.
All right. Any county council updates we need?
Not at the moment.
Well, I'm kind of glad we're gonna semi-punt the first one to the county council to make that decision.
Yeah.
Sometime, this time, I'm sort of using them as my fallback with the first one. And they can make the decision economic-wise or residential-wise. So, I mean, I'm not disappointed in that result. If anything else we need to talk about, or we'll just, next regular meeting is March 15th, 2022 at 6 PM.
And we do have business. As y'all all know, we had some glitch with our mail. We've talked dear staff about some new possibilities. So we will be in touch with the coming weeks before the next meeting on how we're going to go forward with getting the packets to you. We're looking at a virtual way through email, but we're gonna work out some kinks and kind of work through it on our side, and then we will be in touch with you on how we're gonna go forward with getting your packets to you.
We hadn't had a problem till this time.
Yeah, I mean, it was in my
I got
mailbox
mine
today.
in the mail about 3:30, so here it is.
Yeah, about the same, I guess. It was home when I got home from work.
And the postmark was, I think, the 8th or something like that.
That's right.
I mean, you were in the mail, everything was in the mail, I don't
Yeah.
know unless it was too big.
Personally, I'm fine with email. I mean, that worked well for me.
That is what we have discussed. We do have one member that doesn't have email, so we're gonna address it with him, about getting it to him. But that's where we're looking at is through email.
Okay.
I may have to let you use it.
So I like getting mine in the mail. If I wanted it, could I just swing by the office and pick it up like a couple days in advance? I
That
like
is-
having the hard.
Yes, that is gonna be the option for those, who would like that option, yes.
Okay. any other business or any other discussion, we'll, stand and take a motion to adjourn. I'll make that. And second to adjourn,
I'll second.
you second? We'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all for the efforts tonight. We got through it. Dave first, and Daniel second.